Yes, people, welcome back to Albert JTV for another late night weekly surgery. But before we get into it, people, for episode 24, let's smash the intro. Footballing community, waiting time is now over. The Albert JTV practice is now open. The surgery required is Premier League talk and any other business. Let's get to work. Welcome to the weekly surgery. And there you have it, people. Acid, funky, interesting intro into weekly surgery. The Albert JTV practice is open in the beautiful southeast London. But people, as you know, as I like to say, obliterate the like button as normal, and obviously follow my esteemed guest panel with their Twitter handles in the boxes, and also to cover bases, go along the bottom of the screen as well. Yeah, a lot to talk about. People, weekly surgery, episode 24. Like I said, people, we'll be doing more of these to get a lot of my rival fans on so we can discuss transfers and rib each other and cuss each other and love each other and, eulogize each other sometime during the course of the season. But yeah, lots to talk about. But let me get started now because we've got amazing guests to introduce. We're going to start with JJ Seasons. Have I got that right?
Correct. Yes, correct.
Thank you, Jay. Thank you. I got that right. Now, welcome, Bull. Welcome to weekly surgery. I think it's your first time on doing weekly surgery.
It is. I'm very excited to do weekly surgery. I think the last time I was on the show was for the North London Derby preview, I believe.
I think so. But no, Jay, it's great to get you on, man. Even though it's shame about the team you support, but it's all right.
Well, we were saying just before this started, it's the off season, so we can all be friends. And I haven't got Spurs depressing me, so I'm actually in a good mood coming on a podcast for once.
All right, yeah, we'll lose that term "friends" loosely for now. Anyway. But I love. Thanks for coming on. And of course, let me go to my Arsenal contingent, my brother from another mother. Ramsgate bad boys in the building, man. G talks Arsenal. Thank you for coming on, mate.
No, man, it's always a pleasure, bro, man. Like I keep saying, man, you know what I mean? I'm a busy man, but not many people I make time for, but you I will always make time for. So yeah, man, it's gonna be an interesting show. I mean, like, I saw the little kind of mini agenda, some really good talking points. Obviously, I saw that I was on with Holly and Jay, both Spurs fans, so it's always going to be a little bit interesting. But yeah, it's nice. Like Jay was saying, do you know what I mean? It's kind of pre-season. I mean, some of the boys were back in training today already, which is crazy because it feels like the season's just ended. Yeah. But yeah, man, talk transfers, look ahead to the season. So yeah, I think it will be relatively well-natured tonight. We'll see.
Yeah, we would definitely.
Only if the Spurs fans behave.
Yeah, I'm not sure many of them are going to come over to the channel. They might be. But last but not least, my YouTube Tottenham wife, boring for the night. Thank you for coming back to weekly surgery. And how are you, Holly?
No, thank you. I'm good. I'm all right. Like we've all discussed, we don't have to really talk about how rubbish we're playing at the moment. We get to talk about all the good things and players coming in and certain players leaving, which for Tottenham is quite good at the moment. So no, thank you again for having me on, Albert.
No, thank you, Holly. It was a great show, Holly, yesterday, getting your ex-Tottenham player on there, Stephen Colker. Very, very good show. Great questions. A great guest as well. So great show.
Thank you. Yeah, I was very stressed, but I'm glad it's been received quite well. So yeah, no, cheers.
All right. So that's what you got me and Jay for, just to settle you down a little bit. It's fine, man. It's fine. But people, let's get into it. So I'm going to start with Jay actually first. I want to get your opinions. I haven't spoken to you about this, and I'm going to kind of ask Holly the same question, but obviously a bit more time has elapsed now within sort of your Spurs community. But what's your feelings about Big Ange before we sort of talk about the other points? What's about Big Ange Postecoglou? What's your thoughts?
So initially, I went on Holly's podcast when the news kind of was breaking that he was going to be the number one candidate, and it was kind of a done deal. And I went on that podcast and said that it was an absolutely horrendous signing, considering all of the options that are available, all of the managers that are currently out of a job. And I didn't think that he has the pedigree or experience to manage at Spurs. And then he done his 15-second intro video for Spurs, and I instantly fell in love with him and totally took back everything I said. So the thing was for me was I think in the Spurs contingent there's the fan base is split at the minute. There's fans that want to win now and fans that want a rebuild. And I've always been a fan who wanted to win now. So for me, when we had Conte, Mourinho, etc., it was all about, we've got the best that we can have with the best players we can have. We want to win now. And obviously with the Poch era, we tried, playing with younger players and being successful. But then I think we've tried it. It's failed. And now I think as a fan base, it's the most united I've seen our fan base. I was really surprised how the fan base has come together behind Ange. So I think we're all here for the rebuild and we're all here for the long haul. So roll on 8th place finish next season and then winning the league the next year. That's what I'm hoping.
Right, hold that title talk down for a bit. You don't get too carried away. Calm down, mate. Right. But no, it was great to get your thoughts actually about Big Ange, man, as you guys call him now. It's funny because before I come to G to talk about Arsenal and I come back to Holly, it's funny because I'll go on to the Football Heritage show with obviously, as you know, Sav was a Tottenham fan, and I actually probably got a bit of an insight into your fan base in the chat. And even I got to be honest, I was like, I've seen some, me and G have seen some stuff in the chats in terms of Arsenal community and the fans and how they lose their minds. But boy, some of your fans, boy, I don't even know where to start, Jay and Holly, man, to be honest with you. I'm like, wow. But that's for another day to talk about. But before I come to G, actually, I just want to give a big shout out to this young lady. What, Russo? Ollie, I wouldn't say that obviously because you want to be able to live in the neck of the wood where you live. She's
been it all over Twitter, Albert. It's too late now.
I'm ready. I've been called a secret gooner already tonight. So all my favourite England women's players play for you lot now. So I'm just trying to embrace it.
Thank you. But no, the news that obviously Alicia Russo, welcome to the red carpet. It's been overdue. Arsenal tried to put in a world record bid, I believe. I think it was in January, I believe it might have been a bit further in the season, but they turned it down, United. But she came to us on a free now, regain her form, get some more goal scoring in her boots, and a fantastic signing for Arsenal ladies. So can't wait to when Kim Little gets fit and when Beth comes tearing down the wing, we'll win the league by 15 points from Chelsea and Emma Hayes' lot. But no, great, a brilliant signing. I wanted Alicia Russo at Arsenal when the rumour started, and absolutely delighted. I'm sure G will concur as well. But still, G, coming to you, man. So we'll start with the players. So obviously, we heard the news today that Saliba, the contract is probably imminent to 2027 with a further year to extend. We've tied down Saka, we've tied down Martinelli, Ramsdale, and Gabriel was on top of that. But how good a news is that in terms of Arsenal are securing their starlights for this future of this Arsenal team?
I mean, I think at the moment, as an Arsenal fan, there's obviously sections of our fan base will always find something to complain about. But to be honest, for me, in a long time, I legitimately don't have anything to complain about. Because I feel as though the club is continually moving in the right direction. Now, obviously, how we performed last season, for the first time in a long time, we mounted a title challenge. It didn't end the way we wanted it to, but I think most rational Arsenal fans can admit now that dust has settled, that it was beyond our wildest dreams that we were even within a shout or a chance of being a title contender, because most of us would have been happy had we scraped top 4 and got back into the Champions League. Obviously, expectations change because we were performing so well. But on reflection, it was still a very good season. I mean, we were the only team in the Premier League to even get anywhere near Manchester City. And for a long time, I know all the rivals were really, really rattled with the prospect that we might actually go and do it.
They still are.
Do you know what I mean? So, I mean, in terms of that, I mean, on the field, things are going well. And then when you combine that with what's happening off the field in terms of, I mean, we've got a very, very strong, promising, high ceiling cohort of players. And it was very crucial that we tied those players down and we got them committed to long-term contracts. And that's what we've done. And we've done it with practically every single one of them. I think even now, Odegaard, the captain, there are contract talks. And there's no doubt in any of our minds that he's going to extend. There's no reason why he wouldn't. So, I mean, on and off the pitch, I think the clubs are moving in the right direction. The trajectory is an upward one. It's positive. So I honestly don't have any complaints about how things are being, managed on and off the field at the moment. I mean, in terms of players coming in, we've signed, Kai Havertz. And I've said on a previous stream that, he would not. I'm not going to sit here and be a hypocrite and say to you, oh, yeah, he's an amazing player. I was over the moon. I was absolutely thrilled that we signed him. I wasn't. When the rumors came out that we were heavily linked, I just thought it was a smokescreen for another player. And I was kind of hoping it was a smokescreen for another player. At the same time, the thing with me at the moment is I believe that Arteta, Edu, and the club, for me, they've got a little bit in the bank in terms of trusting what they're doing, because we're seeing the club move in the right direction on and off the pitch. Now, and we all know, whether we want to admit it or not, we all know Havertz was an absolute ball at Leverkusen. And many fans were not too happy when he signed for Chelsea. Mm. And I mean, his career's not been a complete disaster at Chelsea. He scored the winning goal in a Champions League triumph. And I think there is context as to why he hasn't maybe hit the heights he probably should have, which we could go into in terms of where he's played out of position. Chelsea have a long history of buying offensive players in particular that for large amounts of money that haven't done well. The likes of Lukaku, Torres, Werner, the list is endless. So, I mean, for me, the Havertz signing for me intrigues me. I wouldn't necessarily say it massively excites me, but I am intrigued just to see what we do with him, where we play him, and whether or not he can recapture his form at Leverkusen, because it will be one or two things. It will either be an absolute bargain, and we'll be able to, get the Havertz of Leverkusen, or it will be an absolute disaster at 60, 65 million. But only time will tell. But, I really didn't like the whole trust the process. It used to really, really get on my nerves, like that whole concept. But yeah, I'm fully on board. I have very little to complain about. I mean, in terms of on the pitch, we're doing bits. In terms of off the pitch, we're doing bits in terms of tying down all our young, promising players. We're on the verge of signing Declan Rice, also the Ajax defender Timber. And if we believe reports to be true, we're not going to stop there. So I think things are looking good for us.
Yeah, I agree. Just tell that to some of our fan base on the social media sites. I think they're seeing something very, very different. But yeah, that's another conversation, man. But people, if you just joined us, smash the like button and subscribe to the channel and follow my esteemed guests. Now coming to Holly Agumbal. Holly, obviously Tottenham have been a little bit busy in the transfer window. All right, calm down.
Doesn't happen very often.
Right. So, sort of going back to last season, what for you was the main teething problems, and what have you seen in terms of the transfer activity so far that you feel that Mr. Big Ange and the Tottenham hierarchy have filled the gaps?
Where would you like me to start? Because there's a very long list of teething.
If the podcast only an hour, so to make it quick.
Okay, I'll do it. I'll sum it up real quick. For us, I think it was probably defence, and the fact that we haven't got a creative midfielder. And obviously, we all knew under Conte that Conte was never going to play a creative midfielder because it's just not the way he plays. But now, obviously, Conte's gone, and we have got Big Ange in. Getting Maddison through the door is honestly, I think it'll be the best signing of our summer, I think, so far. Obviously, we've got to get 2 more centre-backs in, which obviously we're linked with Tapsoba and Mickey Devine. So whether that goes through is another question. But the fact that we've got that creative midfielder to hopefully keep Harry Kane in the midst, we can set him up with Maddison, will be lovely. I just think when G was talking about sorting stuff off the field, we've also started to do that, because I feel like we've lost our culture and identity at Spurs for a very long time. And I feel like now that Ange is in the door, like Jay said, in the sense that when we all listened to his first interview, we were all like, wow, okay, I think this guy actually knows he's coming in. He's going to instill a bit of the Tottenham nature again. and we're going to get back underway, because we've needed this rebuild for so long. And I know Jay's best mate Poch has said it before he left, and we still haven't kickstarted it. But I feel like now we're actually doing it, because we're seeing people leave, like Harry Winks, my mate. We're seeing him go when he should have gone ages ago. If I'm going to be brutally honest, he should have been pushed out the door. But it is what it is. I feel like things are moving in the right direction. I mean, yes, it might be at a slower pace than you, but I feel like we've got an awful lot more to do before we try and contend with you lot again, which makes me sound awful to say so, but I think it's the honest truth.
No, actually, Holly, it sounds absolutely amazing what you just said the last bit. I've got to be honest.
Clip it.
But that cushion in the background, before I come to Jay, I think you might need to put Madison's face on that, to be honest with you.
I think I might ask Jay this Christmas coming up if he can get me the Madison replacement one, because that would be lovely.
I'm just going to get you a Harry Winks one in a Leicester shirt instead.
Oh God, right. That's for another podcast. But no, Holly, no, listen, James Madison's a very good signing. I mean, I'll be honest, from sort of the touting last season, I thought he might end up at Newcastle, but I don't know what's gone on there in terms of, obviously Sandro Tonali's gone there, but they're different players anyway. But yes, I don't know. Yeah, to get him, particularly for the price you got him, I think Madison is 26. I think he is. So yeah, very, very good player, man. And obviously, if you keep Kane, which I did say to a lot of people, I think he's not going anywhere. Said it. Madison will actually have somebody to pass the ball to. So that's quite a good start. Jay, coming to you, mate. Tottenham have a new goalkeeper.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah. And you bought a couple other new signings as well. Obviously, Kulusevski has signed.
Yeah, so Kulusevski's now perm. Pedro Porro's now perm.
Yep.
Obviously, Vicario in, Madison in.
But
Solomon, yeah.
As well? Manor Solomon as well?
Not yet. It's not official.
Not yet.
I don't know. I don't do it until they're holding the shirt or there's an announcement video. Even when Fabrizio says "Here we go," I'm still skeptical. I've seen him get it wrong a couple of times.
Of course.
But no, yeah, we have got a new goalkeeper. I was having this discussion yesterday with a couple of my friends. I don't know whether he starts next year, to be perfectly honest.
Really?
One, obviously, we need to get Hugo Lloris out the door first. The planes going to Saudi Arabia are thick and fast these days. So I think it's only going to take the right kind of money to get him over there. And to be perfectly honest, Fraser Forster played well last year. The reason why I say that I don't know whether he's going to start is that they've not given him the number one. Obviously, Lloris is still at the club, so that might change. But in my eyes, that would indicate to me that, they're probably going to give Forster the number one shirt. And if that's anything to go by, I'd probably say Forster's going to start the season, see how he performs, let Vicario bed in, and then obviously Vicario be our keeper for the future, maybe. But he might start. And I think if we're going for a rebuild and if we're going for this new ambitious-looking Spurs with fresh young players, I'd probably want Vicario to start. My only concern is, relevantly unheard of. In my eyes, and until Buffon came out and said he thinks he's the future of Italian football, I hadn't seen anything really good about him apart from some compilations on Twitter. But if you're a goalkeeper playing playing in bottom mid-table side in Italy, you're going to have lots of great saves because you're going to be facing 50 shots a game. But yeah, I think it's a good signing in the sense of if Buffon says he's good, I mean Buffon's in my eyes the second greatest goalkeeper that I've ever watched play football. So if Buffon says that, then he must have something. But going back to Madison. For me, seeing how much you guys paid for Havertz and seeing how much we paid for Madison only made the deal better in my eyes because, especially with English tax as well. That's the main thing. I'm not disputing. I think they both have the same ceiling and I think they're both quality players on their day. And I don't think there's much different ability-wise, but that English tax is so expensive. And you guys are currently dealing with that, trying to sign a certain defensive midfielder from West Ham. The English tax is ridiculous. And I think for 40 million, it's an absolute steal. And it means that Kane can actually play as a striker because he's got someone that can pass the ball, which is something that we've not had for a very long time.
Well said, Jay. I know obviously, you're probably having trouble relinquish, letting go of Lloris when it does happen. But, Jay, all good things come to an end, my friend. They all do. So coming back, I will come back to you, Holly. Actually, sort of coming to because Jay touched on a certain Mr. Declan Jollof Rice G talks. How important was it that this signing, when it doesn't eventually get unveiled, how important is this for Arsenal Football Club, and why?
It's so important. I think signing Declan Rice is the most important signing of this window for us as a football club, and it'll probably be the most important signing we make potentially for the next kind of 5 to 10 years. And there's a lot of reasons because of that. Because when you look at, as much as I'm a happy Gooner, we've not achieved success. No. Because success is winning trophies. But what I can see is progression. That's what I can see. I can see progression. I can see that we're headed in the right direction. So, I'm not completely content, but I'm happy in the direction that we're moving. In order for us to turn, this progression, that we're making into actual success, I think it's so important that we acquire, our prime targets, our top targets in the transfer market. And that is the criticism I have had of this regime so far. Yes, the football, some of it was exquisite last season. Yes, we've been aggressive, we've been assertive in the market, but too many times we've missed out on our number one target. And eventually that will catch up with you. And it just doesn't send out the right message. Yeah. When you're trailing a player and you're scouting a player and you're having months and months of discussions with a prime target, and then all of a sudden in the 11th hour he signs for a rival or he signs for another side. You can't. You just no one's going to take you seriously. So it's really important for me. I remember somebody saying to me, if we can't broker a deal with West Ham, I'm happy for Arsenal to walk away. And I had the complete opposite opinion. I was like, you know what? If it got to the point and they want 120 million, give them the 120 million, because this was so much bigger than just signing your primary target. And even the fact that Man City came in, there was interest. People saying to me, Man City came in and said, "Oh, we want to push up the price." You don't come in and bid £90 million for a player if you're not serious about signing them. It's just ridiculous. I know people play games and stuff, but come on, let's be real. It was one of the worst kept secrets that Declan Rice wanted to play, for Arsenal, and he wanted to stay in London. Now, I was skeptical about how serious he was about that, because I don't know the geezer personally. I've not had a conversation with him, so I can only go by what's being reported. And at the end of the day, Man City is not an easy opportunity to turn down. We're talking about unlimited resources. We're talking about almost guaranteed silverware. We're talking about the most expensive team, built in probably world football, treble winners. So come on, I couldn't blame him if he said, you know what, I had my heart set on Arsenal, but boy, my head was turned at the last minute. I'd be annoyed, I'd be angry, but I think once the dust settled and I cooled down, I'd probably say, you know what, I probably would have done the same thing, to be honest. So yeah, man. This signing is huge. If eventually we get it over the line, I think we're more or less there. But I think as Gooners, we all know, man, Arsenal love nothing more than to drag out a signing. Bro, we love nothing more. And believe you me, don't even get excited, because even if we get a here we go or we get a done deal from Orny, be prepared to be prepared for the announcement. Is going to be maybe the beginning of August, before they bring out the music video featuring G Unit and Rick Ross, and all sorts what they're going to do. So sometimes I wish they just put up a picture and just said, look, welcome Rice. I'd be happy. You know what I mean? Sometimes you just don't need this big old. As much as I love the introductory videos, they are amazing when they put them together. But sometimes I just want the deal to be struck and I just want the player to be announced. But yeah, in terms of where we are, where we're headed, securing our number one target this summer in Declan Rice is so important. And it looks as though we're about to do that. So yeah, fundamentally important for us. The other thing as well is that, when you look at when you look at what cost us last season,
Yeah.
And you look at where he plays and how consistently he plays, it will be a major improvement on our side. You know, we lacked depth, and we've lacked depth the last however many seasons. And he's going to come in and, you know, he's going to add depth. He's going to add quality to this midfield. And don't get it twisted. You know, you might hear a lot of narratives between now and the season when the season starts. But I'm telling you now, every single club in Premier League football, yeah, would want Declan Rice in their side. And if they say they don't, they're lying.
Gee, let me come in about Rice quickly. I don't get Holly's opinion about Rice very quickly, but let me come in because you're right. You touched on a very good point. The narrative's changed already.
I'm already hearing it, bro.
Arsenal must win the league. Yeah, 100%. There's no excuses. Listen, when Ornstein broke that tweet at 11:03 p.m., I remember it very, very well because it came up on my phone. I see rival fans in the comment section on David Ornstein. Just salty comments, Chelsea, the Liverpool, the salty people in there. And I said to people, look, obviously I'm an Arsenal fan and I do content on my channel, but you know, there's some fans at other clubs that watch it. But I said, listen about Declan Rice, right? I've liked Declan Rice for a long time. I think he's doing excellent for West Ham and England, actually. And I said, if anybody had any doubts about him, go and rewatch that quarterfinal against France in the World Cup and come back and tell me he's not a quality footballer. Are you out of your mind? So listen, when he does
my mate, and I'm not saying this because you lot on, he's a Spurs fan, yeah. And he said to me, you know what? He's just an English El Nene. Bro, I said, really?
Yeah.
So obviously there's a bit of banter in it and stuff like that. I get it. Do you know what I mean? I get it, man. But yeah, my only concern is, this is one thing I said to you, was I don't think any player is completely immune to pressure. I don't believe that. And that's my only slight concern, is that I think with any transfer, there's no guarantee it will be a success. I think obviously the odds and probability is it will be. You look, he's a Premier League proven, he's a regular fixture in the England side, but no transfer is a guarantee. And it is a hefty price tag. And playing for West Ham will be very different to playing for Arsenal. Given the money, given the club he's joining, there is going to be a different level of pressure and expectation. And I can imagine, as soon as he puts one misplaced pass,
oh my,
everybody's going to start. Start making clips and compilations and say 105 million and blah blah. I get it. But I what I've seen of him in terms of his, like, just who he is, a character and a person, when you hear him speak, I think he's got the minerals to deal with it. But there is going to be some pressure, 100%. I think, there's going to be pressure on him. There's going to be pressure on this Arsenal side. There's going to be pressure on Mikel Arteta, big time going into next season. Because, I mean, if we've got Havertz over the line, if we get Rice and Timber over the line, that's already 200 million spent net just this window. And when you put that on top of what he's previously spent, people are already starting to say, well, should Arteta not be, should expectations not be, for him to at least win, a major trophy going into next season? And I think everybody will have a different opinion on that. But yeah, there's going to be pressure. But you know what? That's what we want. We don't want to be going into the season, thinking, oh, lucky if we make Europe. We want to be going into the season thinking, you know what? We want to be competing for the Premier League. We want to be competing for the Champions League. We want to potentially win the FA Cup. Otherwise, if that's not what we want, then we might as well go home. Don't even turn on the TV.
That's true. Let me quickly come to Holly. Holly, I want to get your thoughts about Declan Jollof Rice. What have you made of sort of the obviously my good friend Lawless is obviously a West Ham fan. He's on Dan Potts' show talking about, oh yeah, we drove up the price, and I know Lawless was fuming. He's coming to Arsenal, but he's just trying to hide it. I saw through the BS. But what's your thoughts about Declan Rice coming to Arsenal and just as a player generally?
Definitely would have preferred him to go to City for obvious reasons, because he'll elevate your team. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm just a bit jealous. It's like to have Rice in that midfield, the way he bosses it and carries the ball forward at times. It's really infuriating. And like I say, I just think he's just going to elevate you to even further away from us, which is really annoying for me to say. But I can't lie through my teeth. I think he is going to be a really good signing for you. Like how Maddison, it's not the same levels, but like Maddison is going to be for us. He's going to unlock that midfield that we've been missing for so long.
Yeah.
He's going to do that for you in Arsenal, and obviously in a different kind of way.
Yeah, Holly, thank you for your rational words, because rational is applied to a lot of people.
But you know what? Just before, like you go elsewhere. I had this conversation with other fans of other clubs, even my cousin who's a Spurs fan, and I've been impressed with what's happening at Spurs since Big Ange has taken over. When I saw the appointment, I looked at it and I thought, you know what? Well, they've tried the Conte, they've tried the Mourinho. You know, they've obviously gone for somebody, hopefully, you know, for Spurs fans, who's going to be there for a considerable amount of time. A manager with potential, manager, you know, who can even get better. And I mean, if you just compare it to, like, obviously when Arteta came to Arsenal, I mean, when Arteta came to Arsenal, I was completely against it. You know, for me, it was like, you're giving a rookie, an assistant coach, one of the biggest jobs in world football. For me, it didn't make any sense. There was no rationale to it. And for a long time, I was not massively in favour of Arteta staying at Arsenal. But you see, you start to come around. You hear the man speak. I heard Big Ange speak, and he's got an aura. He's got a presence about him. And from what I've seen in terms of Spurs and what they've been doing in the transfer market, I'm going to admit, like, I can see a strategy. You know, Spurs needed another number one or another keeper, somebody to come in and compete with Lloris. And what they've got there is a very talented young player with a massively high ceiling. Watching Spurs last season, the times I did watch them, they had zero creativity. The only time they had creativity was when Kane dropped deep. And then when Kane dropped deep, there was nobody to score the goals. Sign Maddison for 40 million. Listen, I'll be real. That is an amazing transfer. Yeah. I was in the camp of when Odegaard left Arsenal on loan and the debate was Maddison or Odegaard, I wanted Maddison. I didn't want us to sign Odegaard at the time. For me, Odegaard didn't rip up no trees when he was at Arsenal in his loan spell. Obviously, he's since come to the club. I think Mikel Arteta has done an amazing job with him. And now he's like a whole completely different footballer. But at the time, at the stage of both their careers, at that stage, for me, Maddison was a further developed player than Odegaard was at that point. And I wanted us to get Maddison. So when you look at the two signings they've made, there's a strategy there. There's a plan. You can see they've brought in somebody to compete for the number one position. They've brought in creativity. They do need to address the defense. And from what I've seen and heard of Big Ange, you know, it's not rocket science. You know he's going to do it. You know, you can just see the players who they're linked with. It's going to take time. It's going to take time because they may well make some good signings, but then they may also find they have the issue that we had, where you have maybe a little bit of a lack in depth, and it will also take time for the squad to gel and stuff. But I think, as a Spurs fan, I think they should be optimistic about, from the early signs, they should be optimistic.
Wow, it can't get any worse.
Honest opinion.
Let's put it that way.
Ollie, on top of that, sorry. Obviously, you've done okay so far in the transfer window. There's still quite a bit of time. I think the transfer window finishes is it September, is it? I think it is. I have to double check that. But on top of what you've already got so far, what do you still need?
2 centre-backs. 100%. And I think it's more the people we need to get rid of. Because we've said it for years, like, I know Winks is the prime example, but there's still players in that squad that aren't good enough. And again, it's who's going to buy them. That's the real issue we have at the moment, because, like we say, we should have got rid of them a couple of years ago. And because they haven't necessarily had good performances, people aren't going to want them. So we're never going to recoup the funds that we bought for them. I mean, Sanchez is probably a prime example of that. But I think for me now, 2 centre-backs and then just, I don't want to say binning off people, but getting rid of people, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So Jay, coming to you. So again, I was going to come back to Ange. Really, what's obviously at the point when he was appointed till probably us doing this podcast now. How do you what would you say is your feelings in regards to what the are the Spurs fans a bit more on board, even though a ball hasn't been kicked yet? What's just how do you gauge it with the Spurs community?
I think the Spurs community is excited for the first time in a long time. A very positive manager with a positive style of football and unapologetically. I'm really struggling today.
You've done well, Jay. You've done well.
Say it again. But his style of football won't change. He won't change for anyone, and I really like that. I like that. I like that he's stubborn. And to kind of totally contradict Holly's point a little bit, we've got a lot of players coming back off loan who were unable to play in the defensive style of football that we played last season. And there's a lot of excitement around, I've seen a lot of talk about, obviously we signed Destiny Udogie last year, who plays in a 5. But we've got Sergio Reguilon coming back next season, I never understood why we loaned him out, to be perfectly honest. A good attacking fullback who can also defend. And Ndombele is going to have the greatest resurgence of all time. Bookmark it. We've got a lot of players coming back. And I think the fans are excited because, like you guys, for the first time in a while, it feels like we have a direction that we're heading in. It's just the fan base for the first time in a while, I think, is united. I think even the people that are against the ownership are kind of a little bit shocked because, we're starting to see, the old Tottenham clock has now gone up outside the stadium. A lot of the criticism of the club was that there was no real identity for that. It was, we always get mean for it that it's a music venue, that it's a sports entertainment venue,
a go-karting track venue,
go-karting track, and Tottenham Hotspur happen to play there. Like that. That's how it's always seemed. But to see that heritage added to the stadium, to see us getting the players that we're saying we're going to go for so far, and what I'm really hoping for is to see, blooding some youngsters in as well. Andrew's got a long history of, working with what he's got and being successful with that. And, I think young players, hungry players will want to play attacking football, and they will only play better playing attacking football rather than negative football, which can sometimes suck the life out of, ambitious young players, who've got all this ability, but they're having to play, they might have played as a winger in the youth academy, but now they're having to play as a wing back and spend 50% of their game defending, which is not what they've been brought up doing. So I think it's just excitement. I think I'm looking forward to as a fan base, we're looking forward to a more competitive season than last year. I think it might get in trouble here, but I think you guys are in for a bit of a reality check next year, considering, you only had City to deal with last year. No one else was even close.
It might be the same again.
I don't think it will. I think Liverpool have got to be in their bonnet. Chelsea have got to be in their bonnet. I think United are going to be good next year. I think next season will be the most competitive race for top 4 we've ever seen, because I think last season was such an eye-opener for all of those clubs. Everyone else fell so far behind City and Arsenal, including ourselves. We fell behind Aston Villa and Brighton and Brentford. Yeah. So don't get me wrong. I'm not saying we're going to be up there in the question, but I just think next year is going to be such a competitive year, and everyone seems to be going out the blocks, signing big players and signing big managers and doing big things in the window. That looks like next year's really setting up for a real competition to start.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. I think what my only thing to that would be, and G might concur, is the problem with some of Arsenal's fan base is they're still stuck in the mentality of getting top 4. That's got to change. You need to be talking about going for the title. This top 4, we had top 4 for many, many years under Arsene Wenger. We made 1 Champions League final and I think 1 semi-final, if I got that right, or maybe 2, I'm not sure. That's not a good record. So I think Arsenal fans need to change their mindset in terms of the top four. The top four talks gone on for too long. Last season was I can say it now because obviously it's done. City won the league and Arsenal challenge, but was a wake up call to what we was before, and it needs to go back to what it was before, and actually competing at at the highest level, going for trophies and going for a league title. Yeah. I'm gonna quickly come back to Holly. Solly, I want to ask you quickly about Mikel Arteta. I know he's obviously he's our good looking Spaniard and the rest of it, but what have you made of him? Because obviously I can ask G, because G would tell me, and we'll talk about some of the Arsenal fans that he loses the game. We need a new manager. That's how it is with some of our fans. It's crazy. They're talking about the manager's head when we're going for a league title. Make it make sense. But what have you made of him? What improvements or pros and cons have you seen in him?
I mean, like I said, he's managed to turn news around, which is very frustrating. But he just needs to sort out his temperament. And I get this passion. I think we've spoken about this before, about passionate when we had Conte.
I agree with you. I agree, by the way.
I think that's the thing that riles lots of people up. And that's probably, okay, yes, you did really well last year, and that has also wound people up. But I think it's him on the touchline winds a lot of people up. That as soon as something goes wrong, that's it. He throws all his toys out the pram. And there's a fine line, and I know you said this, Albert, between being passionate and being an egg. And I think there's sometimes this season where he has been a bit of an egg. And I think once he's knocked that out of his game, I think he could be even better. And see, I think passionate and being an egg is a very fine line.
I think that's harsh.
Before you come in, G, I'm gonna come back to you. I hear what you're saying, Holly, because I'm gonna give you an example in terms of I hear what you say. I went to the home game against Newcastle, and Klopp's guilty of doing this, by the way, as well. I was laughing at the time. It wasn't funny, but he completely lost it on the touchline, and the players see that, and I think they lost it emotionally against Newcastle at the Emirates. So that I do agree with, but I know G. I'll let you come in. I think I know what you're going to say.
Yeah,
so come in.
I think with Arteta, I think one thing I put into context is that he's very young, and I think the job he's done at Arsenal. I think had he done this job at any other club, I honestly think that the red carpet that would be rolled out for this geezer. You'd be talking about, like, he should be the next England manager. People need to really rewind the clock and go back to where we were when he first came. I saw the 11 that he inherited. I saw the squad he inherited. The culture at the club. The music videos that the likes of Lacazette and Aubameyang used to put together in the dressing room and then go out and perform fours out of tens. Ozil would lose the ball and not even run back. I mean, the club was complete. It was a completely toxic place.
It was awful.
Now, I understand, and there have been times when I've thought, you know what, he's let his emotions get the better of him at times, and I think that has impacted some of our performances. And the reason why that has is because of the age of our squad, because many of them are young. Many of them have looked to him, as that kind of leader. That example, and I think there have been times when that has cost us. I think if we had a more mature, experienced, and maybe even a successful side that have gone on to win major trophies, I don't think it would have impacted their performances as much. But I think it's almost like being a child and seeing your dad lose his rag. It's like you don't really know how to cope with it. At the same time, this was never a narrative when Sir Alex Ferguson was doing it. It was never a narrative when it was a narrative when Arsene Wenger did it. But when Sir Alex Ferguson was doing it, when Klopp was doing it, I mean, Mourinho built a whole career on
I disagree with Klopp. I think it's always been a narrative with
on just losing it and just saying the most inappropriate things, disrespecting reporters. But all of a sudden, it's like, it's a big thing, just like it was with the celebrity police. All of a sudden, Arsenal, we were celebrating games, and then it was like, but we're over celebrating because we
Isn't
haven't
that the
won.
Same with every club, though? We get class for it all the time when we celebrate.
I can only speak from an Arsenal fan, fan's perspective, and for me, I just feel that some of the criticism of Arteta's sideline antics, so to speak, I think it was massively blown out of proportion, if I'm completely honest. I've seen Arsene Wenger do worse. I've seen Sir Alex Ferguson. I've seen many other managers do worse than what Arteta did on the touchline this season gone.
I mean, Mourinho's words recently, created a scene at the airport, for goodness sake, for one of the officials. So, Jay, come in quickly because I saw you mentioned about Klopp. Jay, come in.
I totally disagree that the narrative isn't the same towards. In my eyes, outside of Arsenal and West Ham, there's not a team on planet Earth I hate more than Liverpool Football Club, and that is purely because of their manager and because of the same things. I also, when you talk about, and this is, I'm going to word this very carefully because it's going to end up with egg on my face, but this is now a conversation because Arsenal are back where they belonged. Arteta's got, it's not happened for a while, but now Arsenal are challenging for titles. The spotlight is on him. Everything is on him. These things are going to be picked up by the trash newspapers like the Sun and the Daily Mail and all of those rubbish.
Richard Keys,
it's all going to it's all going to.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I agree with that. Yeah,
they're all going to pick more now. But my thing is, and it goes down from Premier League football all the way to the lowest level of Saturday League football, which I play. You don't want to give your opposition any more reason to want to beat you than wanting to beat you anyway. And I think Arteta and Liverpool under Klopp done this a couple of years ago, that people that didn't even have rivalries and didn't even have problems with the teams they are playing against, because of the personalities on the teams or the personalities on the sidelines, would up their game intentionally to want to get one up. I think he will mature, though. I do think you can't come from the school of Pep Guardiola and play this nice football. And he is very young, and I do think he can't not be a good manager because of what he's done with Arsenal. It's impossible to dispute that. It's impossible to dispute. But I just think with time and be it at Arsenal, because you never know how long he's going to be here for, but throughout his career, he will definitely mature out of that stage and show, and none of that talk will be about his sideline temperament. In 10 years' time, we won't talk about that one season where he kicked off every other game. We'll talk about what a great footballing manager he was. But I think it's just going to come with time. I think there's a lot of eyes on him at the minute. That's all.
Jay, you know what it is? If it isn't Arteta, it'll be something else with Arsenal. Someone's put it in the chat, and as you guys know, I like to say a famous saying that G knows. I'm 21 plus VAT. So the thing with Arsenal, Arsenal do get it the worst. I'd bring on any.
Have you been a Spurs fan?
I disagree.
Let me finish, because trust me. But the Arsenal fans in the chat, and if I do another 500 live streams, some of the stuff the season before last was teetering, the over celebrating. Last season, as someone put in the chat, there were people bantering Arsenal for challenging City for the league. There were people bantering us about the Declan Rice saga. If that had been any other club that had come second last season, none of these rival fans would have behaved the way they're behaving.
Do you not remember the Leicester season?
No, I remember that, but I remember. I'm talking.
You know what though? For me, it's not so much the rivals, because I get that. My issue is more with the media outlets. Like, to be honest,
because now, isn't it? That's how.
Yeah, because I just like that. That's more my issue, because the whole rivalry thing, to a certain extent, I kind of get it. I'm just. A lot of my opinions of rival clubs, if they're doing well, I'm just not as vocal with it on socials. But if you know me personally, we'll have a banter and whatever. But for me, it was the media outlets. It was the fact that, like, Arsenal celebrating a win was like the main talking point on Talk Sport at 7 a.m. in the morning. Like, that for me is just ridiculous. Like, you could talk about what actually happened in the game. The last minute Reece Nelson winner, but you're talking about, like, are they over celebrating? There was even media outlets saying that it was unsportsman, like it wasn't sportsmanship, like the fact that we were being too cocky. And I was just like that. The whole rival thing, it doesn't really bother me, because I get it. Do you know what I mean? It's like, I do understand it to a certain extent. Like, if it was Spurs in the position that we were in last season, I would have wanted City to win the league 100%. I'm not going to sit here and lie and say I wouldn't. I might not have been vocal on Twitter because I don't even want to get into it with people. But 100%, I would have backed City. But it's more the media outlets for me, the Richard Keys of this world, you know, the guys on TalkSport that are riding and with these narratives. And then what they do is they then put out clickbait tweets from these massive outlets, and then it just riles up everybody else. But the whole kind of like banter between rivals, I don't mind that too much. For me, it's more the media outlets. I just think it's embarrassing, some of the narratives that they ran with last season, personally.
But you even see it in terms of you know, sometimes on Sky Sports when they get on particular rival fans to ambush certain Arsenal fans. I'm not going to mention any names, but Gino's what I'm talking about. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
I get the rival thing, but when you're doing it to ambush and
it's the outlets, man.
Yeah, they know what they're doing because obviously you do research and put certain people on.
Working in marketing, it's great because everybody wants to watch it because it riles everyone up.
Exactly.
But this is what I said about Arteta. This is what I said about Arteta. It's exactly the same with Arsenal. Arsenal have not been the club that they should have been for the last how many years, and now they're back in the spotlight. The knives are out, and the media want their money.
I agree. I agree that the knives are definitely out. The Russell Hobbs knives, all the knives.
When Jay said that, he hit the nail on the head. It's true. At the end of the day, we're in a position where we ought to have been for however many years, and now we're there. It comes with the territory. You know, it comes with the territory. So, you know, we're going to have to deal with it one way or the other. And, you know, the best way to deal with it is to win. Is to win. I was about to swear there. It's to win stuff.
That's it.
That's the way you deal with it. The way you shut them up is actually you just win something. You win a Premier League. You win a Champions League. Because until you do that, those narratives are just going to run and run and run and run. So no, I agree. Completely agree with Jay.
That's it, audience. Get the salt on them chips. Come on, that's it. Come on, roll them up. But no, big up to the people in the chat. This is an amazing intro. Great talking points. It's fantastic, man. Unbelievable. And I still got looking at Harry Wiggs' picture, but it's still it's all right. But yeah, one more thing. A bit of a gear change of weekly surgery, people. Lot of signings so far. Still more to come. I'm not going to go with my pick first in terms of a player looking forward to seeing outside of Tottenham and Arsenal, because I might steal one of your guys' ones. But you can name one or two. But I'm going to come to G Talks first. With all the business done so far, any players you thought, looking forward to see how he gets on next season?
I mean, you know what? There's quite a few. You know, I thought to myself, you know what? This not much business has happened, and then I started to Google it.
You can have one now for the purpose of the podcast.
I'm thinking, so I think if I've got to pick one, because I've got a list. I made a list earlier. No, I did, man. I think there's been some interesting signings. You got the likes of Tillemans at Villa. You got Chelsea's Nkunku. I think that's a brilliant signing. I think because that signing was agreed so long ago and it's only kind of happened under the radar, I think people have kind of forgotten what a player he is and what seasons he's had at German side he's at. But for me, I think the one player that I'm interested to see how he does, I'm a bit surprised there wasn't much of competition for his signature, is Tonali. The Italian midfielder that Newcastle bought.
Andrew.
Yeah, I think that's again, similar to the Maddison, I think it's an exceptional bit of business. When you look at what, Jude Bellingham went for, when you look at what Declan Rice eventually, hopefully, is going to go for, I think them picking him up at the price they did, very, very talented player with a high ceiling. He's going into an already strong midfield. With Bruno and Joe Linton. They had some physical, formidable midfield there. So yeah, I think out of all the ones that I've seen so far that are signed and sealed and done deals, Tonali at Newcastle, I think he's a player I'm going to be very keen to see how he does, because Newcastle hit top 4. They spent a little bit of money. By all accounts, they're going to spend more. But he's an exceptional midfield player with a very high ceiling. Italians don't always travel the best in terms of the Premier League. So it will be interesting just to see how he copes, because obviously Serie A is very different to the Premier League.
Cool. The pace is
You know,
like chalk
the
and cheese.
physicality of it, the pace of it.
Yeah.
You know, you don't get a second on the ball. You know, that you do in like the likes of Serie A and La Liga. So I'm excited to see him. I'm intrigued. So yeah, that's the one for me. That's the standout one for me that I'd like to see how it goes.
That's all right, G. You only gave about 7 names, but I'll let you off. You
Don't
defeated the whole
call me G
purpose.
Talks for nothing, bro.
You defeated the whole purpose of the podcast, but it's fine because I guess I'm gonna come to
Sorry.
JJ season. Even though G's given about 700 names already, have you got any?
Well, I've actually got someone G didn't say.
Yes.
Okay.
It's Dominic Szoboszlai that signed for Liverpool is the player I'm most excited to see. Do I think he's going to be the best next year? No, but I am the most excited to see him. I think with McAllister and that midfield, you know, Liverpool been bantered about their midfield all of last year. And again, this goes back to the point of what I was saying. A lot of the top 6 fell off last year. And I think, you know, 70 mil for Szoboszlai is really a statement of intent from Liverpool, as well as nicking McAllister off Brighton. I think he's such a dynamic number 10 and he was so good for Leipzig. I witnessed him tear us apart at Spurs. He is some player. And yeah, I think Liverpool have really, really got themselves a talent, and I'm really worried for if he hits the ground running, because I've always said I think players, if I was to compare a style of football closest to the Premier League, I would say the Bundesliga is probably it. So, you know, it's quite rugged. It's all about, it's very fast paced. The only difference is from German football from our football is, you know, in our football, we kind of try and pass it into the goal, whereas in the German football, they shoot from about 90 yards out every 20 seconds. So, you know, I'm excited, but not excited because he's playing for Liverpool. But you know what I mean? I'm excited to see him in the Premier League.
Good shout. Dominic Szoboszlai, good shout, Jay. It's interesting with him because I've heard a couple of people say, I don't know where if Liverpool needed him, because I think the only reason why they say that. So what they got, Jay? So they got Salah, you got Nunes, you got Jota, you've got Diaz. I might have missed one more. I'm not too sure. So,
isn't it?
Yeah, so it's going to be interesting where he fits in.
I think Liverpool play a 4-3-3 with one holding next year. I think it'll be, which is mental to say, probably Henderson in the holding position with Szoboszlai and McAllister in front, being creative. You know, I think that's the only way that you fit all of these signings into a team.
And he likes a shot, Dominic Szoboszlai. I won't get Holly to pronounce that because we'll be here for 20 minutes. Coming to Holly Agabar. Give us a shout, Holly, the player you're looking forward to seeing.
Well, this week I did my homework.
Yes.
And the one week I did my homework, G sport it for me. So my one's Tonali. He's got luscious locks. That's all I'm going to add to the conversation. But no, I think where he's only 23 and the fact that he's gone to Newcastle, I think, like I said, like you've all said, if he hits the ground running, which I'm sure he will do with obviously all the caps he's got for Italy, he'll be a star at Newcastle again, which is just annoying because it's obviously not with one of us.
No, great shouts, people. Yeah, I mean, like I said, obviously it's a bit difficult to pick one now because obviously a few names have been taken, but but no, I'm gonna go for Alexis McAllister. Actually, I think he's been excellent in the Premier League. It'd be interesting to see how he fits in at Liverpool. I think he'll do well. I think he'll be fine. I'd be surprised. He'd be the one player that I wouldn't say, oh, you know what, I think he might struggle going to Liverpool. Some players excel when they go to a big club. When Diego Jota first went to Liverpool, he couldn't stop scoring for fun. He made the very, very quick transition from Wolves to Liverpool. So yeah, McAllister, I'm going to go for what name? Alexis McAllister for an Argentina. I've never heard that name in my life.
It's mad.
It is a mad name, but no, big up to you guys, man. Listen, weekly surgery has come to a close, people. Episode 24, no more surgery for the rest of the remainder of tonight because we need to go and relax, people. But on a big up to people in the chat for your amazing comments and all the other things you put in there as well. Audio listeners, this will go out on the audio as well, so you won't be forgotten. And I want to say a massive thank you to the amazing guests that joined me for weekly surgery. So G, tell the people where they can find you, my friend, and thank you for coming on.
No problem, bro. It's always a pleasure, man. But yeah, you can find me on Twitter. My handle's on the screen, which is at GTalksArsenal. If you're going to interact, get ready for paragraphs and a lot of talking, because that's why I'm called G Talks, because I don't shut up. But yeah, if you want to see me on a regular kind of streaming like YouTube platform, then it's at the Armory TV with me and the rest of the fellas. So yeah, man, always a pleasure, Albert. Thank you so much for the invitation as always. And despite the team, it was an absolute pleasure streaming with both you, Jay, and you, Holly, once again.
Likewise.
No, thank you. Big up to G Talks for coming on. The JJ season.
That's me.
Thank you for your debut on Weekly Surgery. Great input, my friend.
Thank you very much
Where
for having me
can
on,
people
Albert.
find you? Come on.
You can find me on Twitter at JJ Season. I'm normally triggering Spurs fans about Pochettino's, what I seem to spend all of my time doing at the minute on Twitter. And as it comes to content, I've officially moved over from the world of Twitch to YouTube now.
Well,
so welcome, YouTube family. So you can just find me. My YouTube is also JJ Season. I don't do podcasts yet, but maybe in the future there might be something in the pipeline, so we'll have to wait and see.
That's it, Jay. Well done. Cut down that celebration time going to Weatherspoons and concentrate on your channel, all right?
Yeah.
But also, before I come to my last guest to give her a shout out, people, I've actually put everybody's channel links in the title. So just click. It's highlighted in blue, so you can't miss it.
Nice.
Share about the color because it sits with a rival team, but that's fine. But Holly, thank you for Gracie once again. We will be collaborating very soon because we are doing the Women's World Cup. There's many things to talk about. Rousseau, but Holly, tell the people where they can find you.
So you can literally find me, Holly Agenbar, across everything, Twitter, YouTube. Find me there where I do my podcast every Monday talking about the good side of North London, but at the moment not the so great side of North London. I brought it back, all right. And also, yes, catch me and Albert will be doing England women's stuff soon, so that should be good fun. But no, like I say, Albert, it's always nice to come on here and obviously talk when we're out of season, so we don't hate each other as much.
Well, Holly, well said. Like I said, there's plenty to talk about in terms of the Women's World Cup. There's today talking about pay dispute the weeks before World Cup, and then obviously we finally found out the broadcasting rights only a few weeks ago that actually going to show the football in the first place. Would it happen in the men's football? No, let's be honest. But we'll talk about that when we do the collaboration. But big up to, of course, your host Albert JTV. Instagram is below my title in the screen and down on the bottom of the screen as well. And like I said, all the listeners, you won't be forgotten. But yes, people, Weekly Surgery is closed now, temporarily, until episode 25. But that's Albert JTV over and out. I will see you soon. God bless. Take care, people.